Hello everyone, and welcome to week number 7. Week 7, we are going to be focusing on structure and function of your human body, as well as medical terminology. So for this week, we have 2 chapters that we are focusing on, not 3, I do apologize for that. We are focusing on chapter 4 and chapter 21. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to start with our discussion on Chapter 4. So most medical language is derived from the Greek and the Latin because those were the first languages ever spoken and typically spoken by the early fathers of medicine. It is so important that you have good communication between your healthcare providers and other healthcare professionals. Medical terminology is frequently used in those communications, both in your office, in your charting, and in patient documentations. As a medical assistant, it is so important that you have a basic knowledge of the medical terms. But it's also impossible to really know every term out there. While that is a challenge to learn them and learn this new language, it can be very crucial to your profession. So, when we discuss medical terms, it's important that you know that they are composed of several parts. They are composed of a word root, a prefix, and a suffix. A word root, which this is typically the part that carries the main meaning of the word. It's a word or an element from which other words are formed. So for example, we have the word cardio. Cardio means heart. That is the word root. The prefix is a word element that is placed before or at the beginning of a word root. The prefix is used to alter or modify the meaning or to create new words. So for example, things like hypertension or hyperlipidemia. Hyper is the prefix and tension is the word root. Hyper means high, tension means blood pressure. So the word would be high blood pressure. A suffix is a word element that comes at the end of a word and alters or modifies the meanings to create new words. This could be a syllable or a group of syllables. So for example, cardiology is our word here, and the suffix is ology. The word root is cardio. So this term here means study of the heart. Ology means study of. Now sometimes a combining vowel is needed before you can join a suffix to a word root, or when you're using 2 word roots and joining them together. The combining vowel is usually the letter O, but sometimes can be a different vowel. The purpose of a combining vowel is to make the word easier to pronounce. So, for example, we have a word like mammogram. Mam is the word root, which means breast. The suffix is gram, which stands for record or x-ray. So we add the combining vowel O in there to make the word easier to say. Mammogram instead of mammogram. That would be very hard to say. Now, while most words will use a combining vowel, some will be called a combining form. You might be thinking, what's the difference? I know when I was in school, I sure did. A combining form is a word root that already has a vowel attached to it, so it can be combined with another word root. So for example, let's go back to the word cardiology. Cardio already ends in the vowel, so it does not need another combining vowel. Instead, it's called a combining form. So now that we have broken down the word roots and we understand the different parts of the word, you can understand the parts of a medical term. So let's talk about taking the words apart. This is a skill that, as a medical assistant, you can use for not only medical terms, but for your everyday English. I always suggest that when you're trying to break a word down, start with the suffix. Once you know what the suffix is, you can apply it to several words. Then move to the word root. The word root is mainly related to a body system or organ. Developing a habit of taking the words apart will help you to understand the word, building patterns, and the meaning of medical terminology. All right, so the last part of this chapter is talking about the importance of not only understanding how to write medical terms, but also how to pronounce them. It is important to have correct spelling, understanding of the plurals, and pronunciation. So with spelling, it's important in any language, but it's especially important when we're talking about medical terminology. Poor spelling reflects poor care and then lacks in professionalism. Wrong spelling can also imply a different word. With plurals, it's important to understand that not all medical terms are singular. Plurals are sometimes formed according to Latin rules, but not always according to English rules. I want you to take a look at table 4.7 in your books, and that gives you a great list of plural terms in the medical terminology world. And pronunciation is last, and this is probably the most important piece, because as a medical assistant, you must learn how to properly say the medical terms, not only when you're speaking with physicians, but also when you're talking with your patients. All right, that's all I've got for Chapter 4. Please make sure you are still reading through that, as there is a great deal of information and some great examples of medical terms that are frequently used. So let's switch over now and talk about Chapter 21. When we talk about this, we're focusing on the human body, and that human body typically falls into two categories. It's either anatomy or physiology. Anatomy is really the study of the structure of an organism, where physiology is the study of the functions of that organism. So that's where we get the structure and function from. But we also need to look at the development of diseases and disorders within your body, and the study of the diseases and disorders is called pathophysiology. So let's go ahead and break down your human body here and take a look at its levels of organization. Now, your human body is organized by increasing levels of organization. Those levels start at the very base with atoms, then molecules. Molecules then move in to make cells. Cells become tissues. Tissues become organs, and organs become an organism. So let's go ahead and take a look at each of those categories a little bit more. So atoms are found at the most basic level of organization. Atoms always consist of at least one proton, one neutron, and one electron. A proton is a positively charged particle. A neutron does not have an electrical charge, and an electron is a negatively charged particle. The proton and the neutron make up the atomic mass of an atom, and they're also found in your nucleus, while the electrons revolve around the outside of the nucleus. When all three combine together, they make different combinations to create different elements. Those elements then become molecules. So these are a chemical combination of two or more atoms. Molecules can move, and this means that they can form as solids, liquids, or gases. Multiple molecules then combine, and when they combine, what they make is called cells. Now, cells are the most basic unit of life and are often considered the building block of your human body. The cells store information and use molecules to perform work that create waste that then need to be disposed of, and our bodies have several different types of cells within them. For example, you have bone cells, nerve cells, you have reproductive cells, blood cells, smooth muscle cells, many, many different types of cells. And every cell has three common parts. It has the cell membrane, a cytoplasm, and a nucleus. Now, when all of your cells combine together, they form tissues. Tissues, again, are resulting of grouping of cells that share the same function and purpose. The human body has 4 types of cells that I'm going to let you guys read up on, We have epithelial cells, connective tissue cells, connective muscle tissues, and nerve tissues. So make sure you read your chapter and be able to distinguish the difference between those 4 types of tissues. Now, when all your tissues form together, they create organs. And organs are, again, so similar to everything else. They are a group of tissues that are made up due to having the same functions. Organs that work together for a common purpose form what we know as a body system. Those body systems are your integumentary system, skeletal system, muscular and nervous system, endocrine, cardiovascular, blood and lymphatic systems, respiratory, digestive, urinary, and reproductive systems. All body systems must work together in order to maintain and support homeostasis in your body. Now, homeostasis is really the balance or the equilibrium within your body. Now, it's also important to understand that the body works in one of 2 processes. It's either called active or passive transport. Active transport uses cellular energy to carry materials from one area to another, where passive transport does not require any cellular energy to move or carry items, but it does require diffusion, osmosis, and filtration. All right, so that is kind of a brief overview of Chapter 21 for you. So please make sure that, again, you are reading your chapters in full. That will help you not only with discussion board this week, but also your quiz for the week. Now, for homework this week, you have 1 discussion post. Your discussion post this week is going to be on medical abbreviation errors. So taking a look at those. That initial discussion post will be due Tuesday, February 14th by midnight. Your reply post to a classmate will be due no later than Saturday, February 18th by midnight. Remember that a reply to your instructor, while appreciated, does not count for a grade. You also have your immunization course project assignment. This week we are focusing on the influenza vaccine. So you will need to review that VIS summary and complete a case study based on the influenza virus no later than Sunday, February 19th by midnight. You also have 1 quiz this week. Your quiz is 25 multiple choice or true-false questions. You will have a 30-minute time limit, and that will be due no later than Sunday, February 19th by midnight. All right, guys, that is what I've got for you this week on Chapter 4 and Chapter 21. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, and I will gladly try to help you work through them, and we will come to a good understanding or a good agreement so we can help move you forward. At this point, you've got about 4 weeks left of class, so hang tight, guys. It's coming to an end. I know some of you are probably getting a little overwhelmed or burnt out, but you've got the end in sight. So hang tight, guys, and have a wonderful week 7. Bye now.